Thanks everyone for being here today. I'm so excited to talk with you all. So as Logan said, I'm the Employment and Training Coordinator for the Colorado Refugee Services Program. And my role is to oversee employment services and training programs, as well as English as a second language programs for the state. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on New Americans in general. So I'm using the term New Americans here quite intentionally. We have an Office of New Americans that we collaborate with quite often. That's a fairly new office to the state of Colorado. And New Americans is a term that we're using here kind of in conjunction with refugees. So my office specifically serves refugee populations. The Office of New Americans serves kind of the at-large New American community. So their definition for New Americans is Coloradans who have arrived and a person who will arrive to Colorado as an immigrant or refugee, and this also includes their children. So that's also intentional, showing that two-generation approach that we have. So New Americans in Colorado, we just have a few stats we wanted to share. There are 537,000 individuals who identify as New Americans within the state, so quite a staggering number. 83% of those individuals are of working age. Their spending power comes to $15.9 billion, again, in the state of Colorado. Nearly 30% of those individuals have an advanced degree, so a 4-year degree, a master's degree, and so on. And 21% of those individuals who have a degree and who are of that employment age identify as underemployed. So we can see that there's already a huge hiring gap here. So I just wanted to share a little bit about my experience working with the refugee population. I was previously, before this position, I was an employment specialist with the International Rescue Committee, not just in Colorado, but also in Arizona and in California before this. In my experience working with refugees, I've seen such a wider range of skill sets that it's a little silly to try to put it all on one slide here. But I just wanted to highlight some of the qualities that I've seen in the amazing individuals I've had the opportunity to work with. I've seen resilience, adaptability, an ability to navigate extremely challenging situations that we in this room might not even be able to imagine. We also can see that they have cultural competency, that they're multilingual, that they bring unique perspectives to the workforce. So I just wanted to highlight some of these, as well as they're highly educated and some of the experience that they're bringing to the table. So with that, just a little bit about the Colorado Refugee Services Program. In 2022, we had over 5,000 newly arrived refugees. We served 7,800 individuals in the state. So this is a specific population of refugees, asylees, and I'm using the term refugee to kind of cover all those populations, but it includes a few different categories. And so my office specifically works with these individuals. We work with resettlement agencies that help people establish their new lives here in the first 5 years. And so if anyone's interested in connecting specifically with the refugee population, I will share my business cards and some other resources further along in the panel. I believe that is it for me, so I will hand it back over to Logan. Thank you.
All right, so we have an amazing panel for you today. So I'd like to invite each of our panelists to the stage, and we'll get this started. All right, so as we were planning for this panel, we felt like one of the most important things that we could do is to show you what a partnership or an experience like this looks like. So today we are joined by two touch source professionals. We've got AJ, and then we've also got Shakur. So we wanted to invite them to kind of tell us their story. So AJ, if you want to kick it off and just tell us a little bit, or I'm sorry, let's start with Shakur. Shakur, if you want to kick it off and tell us a little bit about yourself and your story, maybe leading up to the point where you met AJ.
Hi everyone, and thank you for whoever set up this event. My name is Shukur. I grew up in Afghanistan. I am 25 years old. And my background in computer science, I was junior student of computer science. In the late August 2021, my life changed as Afghanistan collapsed. My companion was a close friend who worked with US military as IT manager. We came to the airport. I had my clothes on my back and a few documents. That's it. We passed through checkpoints. We got clear for departing. For departing to the next US military base. Our planned stop was Qatar, a vital point in our journey. Since it was packed, it led us to an unexpected detour to Kuwait. There we spent a few weeks undergoing fingerprinting and a thorough background check before our final stop, which was Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., I spent a short night and I flew to Wisconsin to do more essential paperwork and a further background check, a process that stretched over 3 long months. I was lucky that I had a family in Denver, and with their help, I set out to find a work and a place to live. It was kind of hard to find an affordable apartment, which was made it worse by bureaucratic barriers in acquiring social security and work permits. And this transition was emotionally draining and laden with the sorrow of leaving my family and homelands. Although I had a background in programming and coding, I started my first job at 7-Eleven. My main focus was surviving in the beginning when I got to US. I worked hard and sincerely for my boss, and within 2 weeks of working for him, he gave me the whole gas station control. With the time and effort, I was able to improve my finance and sparking the idea of pursuing education. I enrolled to Amazon because I was attracted by their tuition assistance program. However, after 3.5 months working for Amazon, I realized that juggling school and working at Amazon was too demanding. Financial aid seemed too feasible path for my education. Leaving Amazon, I started a job at a US airport parking, where they allowed me to take Java full stack developer course. During this time when I was working at Emily Griffith, when I was working at a US airport parking, I sought guidance from Emily Griffith. They gave me a scholarship to become a certified medical interpreter. And their help extended further. They helped me in finding of an internship which was at the Colorado Technology Association, where I refined the skills of data entry and simplifying database queries. After I complete my internship in Java full stack developer course, I attended an event where there were different resettlement agencies and different organizations such as Emily Griffith, Tech Nation. It was there that I met AJ, a connection that would reshape my journey in unexpected and promising ways.
Now my boring part of the story kicks in. Shakur, I'll let Shakur finish when he joined us, but I came to an Emily Griffith event in my capacity working with an organization called Tech Nation, which helps refugees with technical skills find jobs in Colorado. And I also, my full-time job is I run a company called TouchSource. We're a small technology company. If you go to the building next door and push the button on the digital directory, he tested that. That's our products. We make those digital directories all the time. And so in building TouchSource, we'd actually partnered with the IRC many times early to bring in early arrival refugees and in more jobs that weren't necessarily taking advantage of their technical skills. But over time, as we looked at what technical skills we needed, we recognized that there was more we could do and more opportunities coming from that community. So as I approached the Emily Griffith School to just talk about what a technical career path would look like in Colorado, I also knew in the back of my head, we had a bunch of tech jobs within our company. We were small, 50, 55 people, competing against the enormous tech companies here in Colorado. People want to go work at Slack. They want to work at Amazon. They want, and you guys know all the companies around here. And a small tech company sometimes has different things to offer, as well as much harder to get visible. So we had a really important job in kind of our full stack physical testing. And I walk into the environment literally on a phone call, just, we're frustrated with the candidate pool. We're trying to figure out how we can get somebody who has entrepreneurial skills to really figure this out. And up on the stage is this guy, Shakur, literally cheerleading every refugee in the audience, saying, you can build your life in technology. Look at me. He hadn't found a job yet, but I remember the end of his speech, he says, I'm going to have a job within a month, and it's going to be great. And so I'm supposed to get up and talk, but I, of course, walk to the back and immediately hand him my business card and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this. And so when I came back to my team, I said, look, guys, it's really important that we give this person an opportunity. I'm not saying we give him the job. I want him to compete for the job. You got to see his skills, his capabilities. But I know people coming from the community have a much harder access to compete for the job. And so what I asked of my managers was not a big stretch. All I said is, I want you to give him an opportunity, and I want that to be an in-person interview. And with those two things, he's got to be able to stand on his own 2 feet. And it was 7 people we were interviewing, skill levels from 3 years to 30 years. And to make a long story short, they went through all this weeding process. Came back. They did a second interview. 3 interviews did you do, or 4?
3.
3 interviews. And through his own merits and technical skills and entrepreneurship that he was able to show, Shakur earned the job, and my role was just giving him the opportunity for that job. And so now he's been with us for a number of months, and maybe, do you mind sharing a little bit about how it's going?
Yep. Okay. It's been such a great opportunity to working in Emily TouchSource.
It says it on our shirt.
Yeah. In TouchSource, they helped me a lot, and I want to say thank you for our exceptional CEO, CTO, creative director. They all helped me a lot, and especially development team and all the QA team. And it's been great and such a big opportunity working for TouchSource.
All right. Well, I don't know how you can't listen to that story without getting emotional, but thank you so much for sharing such a personal and tender piece of your life with us. Sorry. Our panel is full of professionals who are passionate about helping this community. So just to know who you're going to be talking to today and learning from, I want to allow each of them to introduce themselves. So we'll just start with Dana. I know she gave a little bit, but if you want to add anything else, move on to Maria, Tiffany, and then Christina.
Thanks, Logan. So as I said, I work for the Colorado Refugee Services Program. I do have my business cards here, and we have a handout that has our website. On the website, you can see all the different amazing organizations that we contract with. So my office really oversees refugee resettlement in the state of Colorado. We don't provide the direct service. We fund the organizations that do the actual amazing work of supporting our refugees. So my role is to really connect you to those organizations directly. I have a form that if you're an employer and you have some open positions, you can fill out that form, and then I will share it with all the employment specialists and other staff who work directly with folks so that they can connect with you if they have a good candidate. So that's one of the major ways that you can connect. I also have every other month a refugee employment stakeholders group that meets, and this is all the resettlement agency staff that work directly in employment services. We have some other organizations who are represented there as well, and I frequently invite employers to come in and talk about the positions that they have available, and then people can ask questions and get more information. Those are probably the main ways that you can connect, but if you ever have a specific need, you can always reach out. I'm open to talking about different training opportunities, different ways to collaborate. The amazing thing about refugee resettlement in Colorado is we are very collaborative. I've worked in other states where things are more competitive and people don't want to share contacts and everything, and that's not the case in Colorado. This is an amazingly collaborative place, and so I just want to invite all of you to join in the conversation and be part of that.
Thank you. All right, Maria.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Elena Rivera. I'm a program administrator of the New Americans Integration Network, which is under the City and County of Denver Economic Development and Opportunity Division. I'm just really here as a resource. I support not only job seekers but employers as well through our 3 resource centers throughout the City and County of Denver. I'll go into a little bit later on some of those resources, but my main responsibility is to provide a little bit more additional support in addition to our resource coordinators when job seekers come in. And so I work with a lot of the individuals here on the panel and other internal and external opportunities that are available that our job seekers may not necessarily know, and staff members aren't always able to keep up with the emails that I send out and resource lists that I send out, so they will refer individuals to me. We really do try to also support individuals regardless of their language skills. And so just thank you for having us, and we'll be available at the end for any questions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany Jaramillo. I am the English, HSE, and Career Opportunities Manager at Emily Griffith Technical College. At Emily Griffith, students like Shakur can take either English classes, career and technical education classes, or participate in our careers program. Our careers program is specifically for refugee and other Office of Refugee Resettlement eligible populations, and we help them either re-enter career fields or begin anew in the United States. And so through career navigation, connecting to training that is available, and our career coaching, where we connect students with employers, we hope that they are getting into the workforce and starting their lives in the United States.
Great. Hi, my name's Christina Earle. I'm the founder of Tech Nation Careers. And after being in IT for a number of years, I realized that there was an entire population of very well-educated refugees and immigrants that were missing out on opportunities within technology. And so I decided to start a nonprofit that would allow me to help out with my connections through other employers. But also we were able to start connecting immediately with Emily Griffith. They jumped on board right away, and that helped us tremendously, along with Regis University. IBM was a big integral part of the beginning of our training, and all of the resettlement agencies also got excited and started referring their refugees and immigrants who were underemployed. I will say it was shocking to get resumes for very, very highly qualified refugees and immigrants and find out that they were working at 7-Eleven and that they were working for Uber and Amazon. They were not getting these jobs. And so the whole purpose of our nonprofit is to try to bridge that gap. And it has been tremendously rewarding. We do have a flyer over here, and I will talk a little bit more about some of the benefits of hiring refugees and immigrants, but on our flyer, you'll find our website. There's a documentary on there that will show you some of the lives that have been tremendously changed.
All right, thank you. So as you were each introducing yourselves, you were talking about different resources that are available to both the population and then employers and job seekers. So AJ, what were some of the resources that you've used during this process, or just as your time as an employer?
Yeah, I think the first thing is we started talking with the TechNation team on how and what is the best path to both bring on a refugee, as well as the city of Denver provides economic support for bringing somebody on, bringing a new American on. And so TechNation helped us connect not only to the right resources to bring Shakur on, but also get the supplemental support from the city of Denver. The other thing I'd add is we'd previously hired in conjunction with some work we were doing with the IRC a number of years ago. And so we were somewhat familiar with some of the things we needed to do to best support somebody coming into the culture. But what I would say is people coming in with technical skills, he came and hit the ground running in a lot of different ways. We had to provide some training, and that's where the Denver kind of subsidy dollars helped with us. But using those resources and then partnering with the TechNation team to figure out kind of the best way to support us, we were probably from when we met to when you were on board was less than 30 days and already making an impact.
That's awesome. Thank you. Christina, is there anything else that employers can access or other resources that they should know about?
Well, I was just going to say, AJ, this isn't the first refugee immigrant that you've hired from TechNation. We also had a Salesforce administrator that was, I think, pretty outstanding. Would you agree?
Oh, yes.
So yes, we know that there are resources out there, and it's also equally astounding to me that so many employers are not aware of the fact that there are government subsidies, there are tax advantages that you can take advantage of. And so part of what we do is to educate the employer on not only the hiring process. So a lot of employers just jump to the assumption that if they're not a citizen or if they're not a permanent resident, then we can't hire them. And that is not accurate. And then they're not aware that they can be reimbursed for those first 3 months of bringing on a new American. So we are there to help employers understand that. There's plenty of benefits out there.
Thank you. So lots of tax incentives and the connection. Tiffany, Maria, Dana, anything else you want to add?
There's also an opportunity for employers to provide on-the-job training, which was referenced earlier. So it may be an individual that you're not 100% sure if they really fit the qualifications, we'll give them an opportunity, and up to $600 or $6,000 of their wages can be covered through the workforce development resources. So for those of you that aren't here in Denver, look at your local economic development divisions and see what type of incentives, employer incentives that they offer, what type of resources are available to your potential job seekers. Here in Denver, we have tons of resources, not only the tax credits that are available, we also have starting your business, growing your business. There's a checklist. You can meet one-on-one with individuals, and it'll all be available on the handout. Well, the link to the website where you can see all the different resources that are available. There's also a federally funded program called WIOA. It's Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, that job seekers are able to, as they are eligible for those services, they're able to take advantage of additional training. So maybe you have current employees that don't quite have the skill set to move up the ladder, but they need a little bit more extra support to get a certain certification. Refer them back to your local workforce center and see if they can receive some additional support that way. And throughout the nation, they may not be referred to as Workforce Center. It may be One Stop or American One Stops. So you can Google or search on the internet for your local entity as well. But there's a lot of money out there to support employers. We also locally have in Colorado a database called Connecting Colorado. And Connecting Colorado is not only for job seekers but also employers. It is a free database that you can post your job listings, and job seekers are able to post their resumes, and so you can do a search that way, and there's tons of other resources on there as well. So at the end, go ahead and grab the handout, and you'll have a link to our main page that you'll see for employers as well as for job seekers resources that are available. Thank you.
So I've mentioned before the resettlement agencies, so I just want to put another plug in for the staff that work there, especially on the employment service teams. This is specifically for refugees and what we refer to as Office of Refugee Resettlement eligible individuals. So it's not every new American that has access to these services, but it is a great resource if you're an employer, because these individuals are helping refugees to navigate this entire process. They're helping to set them up with an email address. They're helping to understand what the application process is, bring folks to interviews, even provide interpretation for interviews so that employers can fully understand what someone's experience is coming in. And they can help with things like documentation, which I think I'll touch on a little bit later. But I think the point being that there's this whole network of support behind refugees, people who specialize in working with employers and can support with the entire process.
Awesome, thank you. All right, well, I do have one question. So Christina had kind of brought up different documentation. So sometimes employers are a little hesitant to move forward with a candidate. What advice would you have for them? They might have questions about a green card or social security number or all kinds of documentations. What advice would you have for them, Dana?
So it is complicated. I will just admit that to you all. Yes, it is complicated. So I think it is important to understand that going in, but that willingness to work through it and work with an employment specialist and just ask someone, what documents did you show when you first arrived at the airport? They know what documents they have. And so while it is complicated, there is an answer, and refugees know what they have and they know what documents they can show. USCIS has amazing resources on this. Even at the state level, I will say that I'm not even an expert on it, so I don't think anyone's expecting someone in HR to be an absolute expert on our immigration system and all the possible documents that there are, but there are resources out there, and At least for the populations that my office works with, there is work authorization associated with those statuses. So it's possible, it shouldn't be intimidating, and there are many, many resources available to help you out with that process.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another good resource is from the Department of Justice. There is a hotline that you can call and say, I have this document in front of me. Will this work? Is it one of the I-9 documents that will be accepted? And they will walk you through, employers specifically, if these are acceptable documents. I'm happy to share the number at the end. But for anybody taking notes right now, 1-800-255-8155.
And if I could just add on to that. So the candidates that we have been pre-screened already. So an employer can know that they are hiring someone that has work authorization. And it is sometimes a little complicated, and things are always changing. So we have to keep up with that. But that's great to know about that 800 number too.
Just want to tag on because I currently have a husband and a wife that are in this situation. As an employer, consider also sponsorship for employment because as you've heard, we have so many individuals that have so many skills and talents and the credentials from their native country that they just don't always have the opportunity if they don't have the appropriate documents. So that's something else to consider. Not that I'm aware of. I don't know if anyone else on the panel is.
So I just wanted to clarify that at least the candidates we work with do not require sponsorship. So the vast majority of highly educated, underemployed refugees, new Americans, have work authorization, do not require sponsorship. If you're looking for someone that does need sponsorship, we can certainly find plenty of those at Regis University and any other university that already has international students desperately looking for sponsorship and very highly qualified. So that would be a great idea if we could put something together like that. But there are employers that we are aware of, Western Union being one of them, that do hire students, then do hire with the opportunity of sponsorship. So we are aware of a few employers.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you what, my husband came in from Canada, and I got like firsthand bird's eye view of what that looked like. So it can take a few years to get that finalized. I would say maybe 3 before you're finalized. And, you know, there's a amount of money involved that the employer will need to cover. But if you're looking for someone in cybersecurity, like I know someone getting a doctorate at Regis University, desperate, that needs sponsorship. If you want those really high-level qualified people, I think it's worth every penny to sponsor them. Sorry.
I could speak from my HR manager that, because we've hired now two, actually over a few years, there was the actual hiring process to bring Shakur on board was exactly the same as a normal process. We had a validation, and Technation helped us make sure, because it came through that process, that there was a validation of the credentials appropriate and everything was fine. So that process, super smooth, just like hiring anyone else. And then on top of it, with the what is it called? Where we got the money from Denver. I'm blanking on the name of the program. Sorry. On-job training thing. We partnered with both Denver and Technation. They put the application in. I checked with Michelle, our HR manager, before I came in, and she said the entire process took her an extra 2 to 3 hours in total to do that. So for us, getting somebody like Shakur, I'll say the biggest change from HR, and I mentioned it in the earlier, is you can't hire this type of talent on LinkedIn or Indeed because it'll automatically weed out. His resume would have never made it to us. So the number one change we had to do was do an in-person interview as interview number one, because we looked back, all of our screening processes would have weeded him out. So that was the only major change we did in HR, but once he got in, it was super smooth.
Can I add to that? You just brought up something really important that is near and dear to me, and that is the HR screening process. So there's personality assessments specifically, and those personality assessments are practically designed to eliminate refugees and immigrants because English is not their first language. I happened to be with someone that was taking a personality assessment, and I remember the question was, do you like to manipulate people? He said, yes. I said, do you know what the word manipulate means? Oh, no. I was like, what other words are in there that are of a higher level of English that will eliminate him? And we had an employer, and every single time they would go through that, and our candidates would be eliminated because those tests are not user-friendly for people for whom English is not their first language. So I have been made aware of some personality assessment tests that now can be modified for those where they do speak English, but it's not at the same high level, but it's accommodating the fact that it's their second language. And so I would encourage employers to please double check that with the assessment that this candidate will be given to make sure it doesn't eliminate them.
I'll add another piece to that. Not only the language piece, but the cultural bias within the questions. And as a team, you will build the culture. And if you are inclusive, you will build a culture that includes very talented folks from all over the world. Another resource for employers or thing to think about as an employer is even from the job description. Is your job description skill-based? If it's not, you are rolling out folks who might not be putting on their skills from another country, who might not have finished their education because they had to flee their country months before their graduation, but they have the skills. So consider skill-based hiring. The Markle Foundation has excellent resources, including the Skillful Talent series, as well as a job description generator, where you can put in, here's the job that I'm hiring for, and it will generate a job description that is skill-based and inclusive within language and culture. Markle. Mm-hmm.
And actually in Denver, we just had a workshop yesterday. So we do provide workshops to employers as well. So City and County of Denver Workforce Development. But Shakur, I want to get your opinion on this. So for employers to know from an onboarding standpoint, what's something they should know from your perspective?
I want to add that refugee value politeness and respectful. Encourage a respectful workplace culture for harmony. And there is another point that I can add about that one is nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication matters a lot in refugee communication. So be mindful of those things to understand them better. And offer cultural training. Offer cultural training to all employees may minimize misunderstanding. And growth option is the last one. So if you give them opportunity to advance in their careers, it boosts satisfactions and loyalty.
Anything they should know about communicating with someone during the hiring process or the job application process?
It should be simple for refugee because they don't have any idea, and there's gonna be probably some tax including that is hard for refugee to know about it and how to like minimize their tax. So if people can help them during the process of hiring, it would be great for a refugee. Because personally, myself, I got help from Emily Griffith, and overall, I got help from Touch Source HR, which helped me a lot during the process of hiring on onboarding.
If I could add just two things that we learned mistakes when we were starting with Shakur is one, and you just highlighted it. Our hiring manager, really great guy, and the interview process with Shakur then said, "Well, we'll get back to you soon." And for all of us who go through tech process and interviewing, we know soon could be 1 day, 4 weeks, 1 month. For Shakur, soon was like 2 days later. It was the expectation. So, he's texting me afterwards, and 2 days, 4 days, and the hiring manager thought that was perfectly reasonable. And so the only thing I would say is be pretty specific, and that's an immense attribute from a technical mind. Like these supposed drawbacks of needing the definition of the word soon. For somebody in quality assurance who tests our software product, I love that. And then the second thing is, like many of your companies, our culture is very much within Slack. And, having a Slack and a Giphy-based culture and all of those types of things required a little bit of orientation on, what requires a formal, like, I remember some of your original Slacks were like, opening paragraph, I will get on that right now. So, and he gets a response, like a thumbs up from people and stuff. So there's a cultural communication that didn't take long at all, but it was two things that we learned in the process that we could have done better at. And these are really, again, I can't emphasize that such a small investment of time for such a valuable resource is worth it.
I just want to tack on to that any changes that we're talking about here, skills-based hiring, simplifying language, simplifying communication, thinking about your process, that's going to benefit everyone. We're not sitting up here saying do this for refugees. These changes will benefit everyone that you're working with.
I just want to add to that. I mean, particularly since the pandemic, the way that our job seekers are looking for employment has drastically changed. We have a lot of individuals that still want to go physically to the building and to put in their application. We're like, no, you have to do it online now. So think about that, how maybe your current business operations are taking place. To add on to what's already been said about the onboarding process, some individuals aren't used to everything being online. And so they don't see the email and so one of the things that I would just offer for all your employees is, at the end of that interview, if you're certain you want to, make a job offer, kind of prompt them, keep checking your emails because, after that job offer, then we're going to make sure to send this link to you. And, just that however your process is, just be a little bit more mindful about stating what the next steps are. Because the way of hiring and job searching has drastically changed just in the last couple of years. The last thing I want to say is consider also apprenticeships. That's another way of finding a talent that maybe you may not have looked for otherwise.
All right, so thinking about talent, thinking about making these innovations that are going to benefit everyone. AJ, how did bringing in Shakur to your organization benefit your culture? How does it align with your values? What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a lot of benefits that we're still gaining within the process. And so first, I think it's a really unique job market, especially in Colorado. So for us to post a job in technology that requires somebody to be in the office every day because it's a physical testing was dramatically reduced our employee pool. And usually the people applying were very reluctant to come in. So number one is a person who came in, I mean, he's smiling all the time. The level of enthusiasm is important. But then his cultural history and story, and we'd all seen the images of Afghanistan in the airport, and he's a very humble person, but then when you get at that, he was at the airport. He was on that flight that you saw on the news, and all of those things really helped ground people. But I just noticed an immense sense of pride within the organization. Like, this person is part of our team and part of our culture. Yeah, I'm going to embarrass him now. Yesterday, he practiced his speaks in the daily stand-up call. And I got so many people slacking me and just was like, oh, I'm so excited and stuff like that. So there's elements of creating this, it's not diversity as in a checklist item. It's a diversity as in it made us stronger because we were all kind of seeing just different aspects of society together within there. And then the last part is, and I was speaking about this earlier, some of the assumptions our products are designed for non-technical users. People should be able to push a button, find where they're going. But we make assumptions with the domains, for having someone, the domains we live in, for having someone who's a non-native English speaker, comes from a different cultural orientation. We did not even anticipate the benefits that he's seeing in purely from a work output point of view on having that very different perspective. So I think we're going to continue seeing more and more benefits over time. And we're all learning in the process together. But I think the thing that I would say more than anything is I think it's really strengthened the team. I mean, when we had the little team event last Thursday, there was like a little crowd around him since I mentioned this, and became a little celebrity. So I think it's good for everyone in the end.
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, we are just about out of time, so I just have two last questions. So if you want to start thinking about our title of today's session and what you want these individuals to know about hiring a refugee and why that's important. But before we touch on that, Tiffany, I know that you had partnered with Wes and you have this special program at Emily Griffith for these individuals in Colorado who Dana mentioned. There's over 30% of individuals who come with higher education or advanced education. So for these individuals that come with higher education who have degrees, what advice do you have for employers or for these job seekers?
Yeah. If somebody does have education already or skills from their country, again, we recommend skill-based hiring. But if you are going to require a degree, folks can get a evaluation of their education, and companies are equipped to look at education from other universities and determine, or other countries, and determine if it is equivalent to the U.S. At Emily Griffith, we're able to help students get connected to those evaluation agencies, so that way they can get that documentation if it is needed for employment. So we're happy to assist in that way.
Thank you. All right, to close today's panel, I'll let each of you speak if you just want to start, Dana, and we'll go down the line. But why is hiring a refugee good business for your business?
I think, as I mentioned before, any changes that you make to your process, your hiring process, your welcoming practices, that's going to benefit your entire organization. I think it's pretty clear from what we've seen today that refugees bring so much more to the table than you can even imagine.
Just along with everything that's already been said today too, I think the thing that strikes me the most every time I meet a new individual is their entrepreneurship spirit. And the other qualities that Dana mentioned earlier, the resilience, the figuring things out, collaboration, kind of sidetrack. Again, if you don't remember anything I say today, partner with your local economic development or workforce center, with either the business services or employer services, because they will be able to help you through a lot of this. And the collaboration of bringing that talent into your companies will be priceless. So thank you for your time today.
I'd say refugees come with so much talent and lots of organizations and people that care a whole lot about their success. And so we also are there to help you as an employer. So Tech Nation, Emily Griffith, Dito, Crisp, Ona, we are also a resource that just by connecting with a refugee, you get access to all of us as well.
Well, I had a list, but I'll shorten it down to one that I really think you've already seen a good example of, and that is who wants to hire an employee that'll give you 110% or more? Who wants to hire someone that will be there anytime, anywhere that you need them to be? I mean, these are employees that are so grateful that you gave them an opportunity. They're grateful to be here in the United States. They're grateful that they don't have to worry that their house will be bombed with their wife and children in it. They have so much that they're grateful for, which means they remain very loyal. They are very hardworking and loyal, and the data will show that they have a much lower turnover rate than the national average. And I think that's for two reasons. One is I think employers are pretty happy to have these amazing employees. And number two is they are very grateful that you gave them an opportunity and a chance, because it isn't easy when you come to the United States to get your first job, to get your foot in the door. So they remain loyal as well. So, and the wonderful thing is, hey, by the way, the government will help you financially to hire these amazing employees.
I think you guys have heard a lot from me on the benefits, but I think the last thing I'd say is the reason you should hire a refugee because your company deserves it. If you're a small company and building a great brand and a great culture, you deserve to have the best and high potential and, like I was saying before, not the bottom of the LinkedIn or Indeed resume jungle, but really somebody who's got a unique perspective and can move you forward. And it's not, why you should, adjust to the refugee. It's why you deserve the best talent. And I think that's one of the things we've learned in the process is we are deserving of the skills that Shakur has because he's propelling us to the next level. Why hire you?
I would say the refugee would be adaptable, flexible to getting a schedule, to being in office every day of the week, and they won't need any sponsorship because they've got work permit, especially about the latest refugee that came to United States recently from Ukraine and from Afghanistan. They've got humanitarian parole and they've got work permit. They won't need a sponsorship. Just give them an opportunity and ask them if they were not qualified. You can ask other people and just hire another people. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, well, thank you so much to all of our panelists. I know all of my questions didn't get answered, so if yours didn't either, there are some resources up here. And then some of you have maybe some of these advanced jobs that you want to hire for, and others of you maybe have more of those survival jobs that Shakur mentioned at the beginning. But to wrap up today's session, I just want to share a quote with you from Patrick Kieran, and I feel like he puts it best when he says, quote, "Being a refugee may be a defining moment in the lives of those who are refugees, but being a refugee does not define them. Like countless thousands before them, this will be a period, we hope a short period in their lives. Some of them will go on to be Nobel laureates, public servants, physicians, scientists, musicians, artists, religious leaders, and contributors in other fields. Indeed, many of them were these things before they lost everything. This moment does not define them, but our response will help define us. End quote. And we challenge you to hire a refugee because we know it's good business for your business. Thank you so much for coming to our session today.